Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. Let's get started with the story of the day.
So another plane crash, but this time 20 minutes from our house, which is so insane to think about.
The news has been crazy for the past couple weeks. Like, I can't, as Nancy would say, I feel like I'm drinking from the fire hydrant. Like, it's just coming so fast all the time. I feel like we just talked to everyone on Thursday about the other plane crash, and now it's like we're here, right?
Well, yeah, and I was thinking, I kept seeing memes last week that was like, I can't believe it's still January, and I'm like, this month is going by extra long compared to normal. And then to think about how we started the year with, the incident in New Orleans and in Vegas, and now we're ending the month quite literally with a bang in the Philadelphia area. It's super scary. I was driving to Boston and you texted me and just said another plane crash. I didn't even know it was near us because I just left my house. And it turns out it was in Northeast Philadelphia just after 6 p.m. This ambulance jet carrying 6 people, within under a minute after they took off from the Northeast airport, crashed into the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's so terrifying. The videos and the photos are just, you can't believe something like that would happen in your neighborhood. And now I can't help but think about it. Like, planes fly over our house all day, all the time. The airport's right there, and you just don't even think that there's these literal, like, bombs flying over your house at any moment could fall and just destroy your neighborhood, you know?
Well, I don't think everybody obviously knew what happened at first, and I think that's what a lot of people thought, that it was a bomb. And when you see videos of this going down, it literally looks like a missile is dropping from the sky and this mushroom-esque cloud goes up. What would you even think if you saw something like that?
I don't know. I feel terrible for anyone that had to experience that. And obviously we're from this area. I've been up that way a million times. It's just crazy. I know the area so well, so it's easier for me to picture in my head what that would have been like. And just thankfully, because it was rush hour on a Friday night, and I just think by, like, the grace of God that a traffic light had changed and there was that gap in between or something, because there just wasn't that many cars that you would see to be expected in Philadelphia rush hour traffic. Thank God. It doesn't, I mean, people got hurt, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
No, totally. And I was thinking of everybody driving on the street because the explosion was huge. I mean, you could see it from all different areas of the city, and I was
Did you see the hole in the ground?
Yeah, there's like an 8-foot crater in the ground.
It looks outrageous. I want to go see it, actually, but they probably won't let us anywhere near there.
No, I doubt.
Do you have a press pass?
Actually, I think they just opened traffic up around that area yesterday again, but we should try to go on a field trip tomorrow and see if they'll let us near it, because I am interested in seeing it. And the first thing I think when I see all these dash cam videos is, what would you possibly think if you were in traffic? I mean, I told you Ricky had been driving home around that area only an hour before that. So I was like, what would you have thought if you just saw an explosion like a couple miles ahead of you on this major road? And he was like, I would have assumed it was a bomb or something. I don't even know what I would have done or turned around, because people go into shock.
I know, and you could see by the video that I mean, obviously, it's just, if you guys haven't seen any of the videos, I did put some clips up in the gross room. And then, of course, the aftermath was terrible. There was videos going around of a person that was on fire, which is just awful. We know one person on the ground died so far, and there's a woman missing. You know that, right?
Oh, I don't think I saw there was a missing woman.
Someone said that her sister's missing, and she was at her boyfriend's who lives around there, and he said she had left around the time to go get something to eat.
Oh my God.
But like, and honestly, like, that impact is so heavy and deep. Like, there is a possibility that someone was standing near there when that happened. But as of right now, and the mayor does keep saying that, like, the injury toll might go up, the death toll might go up. We just don't know right now everything. So, I mean, what would be the chances that she was just missing, a 40-some-year-old person? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is extremely odd. Right now we know all 6 people that were on the plane died. This, not that that's not sad by itself, but this has an extra layer to it, which it was this little girl getting this treatment for a life-threatening illness that she had. So I'm assuming she was going to CHOP, right? Because
No, she was
that's
going
where.
to Shriners.
Okay, she was going to Shriners, so she was getting this treatment,
But
and
she was there for at least a month. I mean,
there
she
for
was
a
a very
month.
sick kid, and it's just think about how terrible it is as a parent to have a sick kid that's that sick that has to go on an airplane to go get treatment in another country, and then for this to happen.
Yeah, so on that plane was the little girl, her mother, a doctor, a paramedic, and the 2 pilots. They were going back to Mexico. It's really, really upsetting that she possibly got this treatment that maybe saved her life or at least gave her a little bit of, you know, calm in the craziness that she was going through with her illness, and then to have this tragedy happen. They're also saying right now that this 33-year-old woman is in a medically induced coma because she had 70% of her body burned. We also
That
know
is
that.
the worst thing ever. I just feel so terrible for that woman.
Yeah, and then there's the child. This 10-year-old little hero tried to save his sister from the falling debris. He got impaled in the head, but it seems like he's doing okay right now. And then the mayor had said 2 other people are in critical condition in the hospital. So
There was another video going around of a guy sitting in the diner, and it flew through the window and it knocked his baseball hat off. It did hit him in the head too, so I know that he was hospitalized with some kind of head trauma, but it didn't look like, if it did hit his head, it looked like it was very superficial, hopefully. But I mean, something flying like that, shrapnel flying from a plane accident like that, could be equivalent to getting shot. You know, it's just fast, and a piece of metal flying like that at you could cause lacerations, or just the impact of it, because it could have caused him a brain injury. You know what I mean? So how freaking crazy. And it's
no.
all on video. I mean, so many people are outside. It's a Friday night in the city, you know?
Yeah, and even worse is like all these people are injured. There's parts of the neighborhood that are destroyed from the debris and the explosion. And we have to talk about the psychological trauma people are going to be facing, because I don't know if most people have seen this, but a lot of our listeners were sending this our way, which there was body parts just all over the street in people's houses. There was a full-blown person on a roof.
Oh my God, I know. It's just the one of the body parts in a person's house is so disturbing. And this
Yeah.
one woman was getting interviewed and saying that she thought that she smelled smoke or something, and then she was like, there was a piece of a plane in my house. Like, how outrageous is that?
Yeah, and there was the most disturbing picture for me was there was parts of a human that seemingly went through somebody's ceiling into their bedroom. So imagine going into your bedroom and there's a deceased person that was part of an explosion that just came out of the sky.
Yeah, it's just, and I can't help but think, because we just had the plane accident in DC last week, which had multiple fatalities, so many more than this one, and thinking like, thank God that fell over the water, because if that fell over the city right there, there's Alexandria right there, or there's Washington DC. Like, if that plane crash happened over the city, that would have been catastrophic as well. Imagine a plane of that size with, you know what I mean, with that many people. All of the people on board would have died, as well as people on the ground would have gotten injured too. So it's, at least it's lucky that it fell into the water in that case.
Yeah, it is really lucky. And then speaking of that case, there's, they're still doing an investigation, and with the Philly crash, they're not going to know what happened for a while, because, this just happened. It takes some time. I know in the DC case, they did recover the black box, so I think that'll have a lot of telling information about
They just did in last night in Philly too. They found it in the hole. So
yeah,
they were able to, like, they'll be able to figure it out. I mean,
yes.
Even if they could figure it out at this point, who cares? It happened, right? It's not like you're going to change anything.
Yeah, but I guess they want to see if, like, if it was human error, or if the plane had an error that maybe they need to look at the other models and adjust. That's why they have to look into it more.
I know. I'm just saying, though. It's just like,
but with
terrible.
DC crash, they have a temporary morgue set up also because of so many bodies, which is crazy to think about. I'm assuming the people in the Philly case went to the ME, right?
So, yeah, they would in that case. Since it wasn't that many people, and that's what I was going to tell you, the difference between putting like a makeshift morgue. I mean, 6 or 7 people isn't that many people for a Philadelphia medical examiner's office. Especially because honestly, 6 of those people, with the exception of the guy or whatever body was on the roof there, they were in pieces and going in a body bag. Like, they're not even, they're going to have to separate them and figure out what belongs to who, but there's not even intact people. The person on the ground too, I don't know who died on the ground and what the circumstances were there. The DC one's a little bit different because there's 67 from the one plane, and then there was 4 from the helicopter, right?
No, 64 from the plane, 3 from the helicopter.
Oh, okay. So 67 altogether, but that's a lot of bodies. So they set up a makeshift morgue right outside of the site. They do that, like they did that for 9/11 and stuff like that when there's a mass casualty event. And they'll go through all of the bodies because in the DC case, for example, and I don't know this because obviously I'm not working on that case, but you could see the fuselage is in the water and it's intact, which makes me think that those bodies are intact. There was some of them that were intact, but then you had an explosion area, like similar to what just happened in the one in Philly, that you might see parts. Do you understand? Like, it just depends where the people were sitting. So they're going to set out beds and try to lay out each one and determine what, keep the ones intact, put the pieces together and try to identify every single one and get the remains back to their families and stuff. But it's just going to take time because it's a lot of work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I also just saw this morning that 2 airport workers got fired for releasing videos of the crash to news outlets.
Yeah, why? I don't know. Like, do you think something's wrong with that? Like, I think the public should be able to see it.
I think the public should be able to see it, but they're not only fired, they've been arrested with computer trespassing. So I don't know if they signed something when they worked there that's everything you see is confidential, but people don't care about that stuff when things like this happen. They're just worried about getting it out.
Yeah. I wonder why, since there was already a couple videos out, like why if there was a specific reason they thought that people should see it, because it is a different angle and it just looks crazy. You just watch it. And obviously I don't fly a helicopter, so I don't know how those things work, but you just look at it and think, pretend you're driving a car, right? Like you're looking out the front windshield and you would see something huge in front of you. That's just all.
Well, I was reading yesterday that, they're starting to look into this now because of staffing issues, and there was the potential that one person was doing 2 people's jobs, but I think they're still trying to confirm that component of it. But another thing is they were saying that a lot of planes were landing around the same time, and when the air traffic control got in touch with the helicopter and asked if they had eyes on that specific aircraft, and they said yes, that there's theories that they may have been looking at another plane because so many were landing at the same time. And I don't know.
There's no sense of us even. It's funny because it's like ever since COVID, everyone has opinions on the internet, and there's all these funny things like, oh, I didn't know everyone was a doctor. Now this week it's like, I didn't know everyone was an airline pilot. Like it's just, the speculation is stupid. I just look at it from a perspective of a person that drives a car, and I know it's completely different, but at the same time it's like the theory is that you take it from one place to another and you don't crash into things on the way, right?
Yeah.
So okay, so we're a little bit light on celebrity news this week. I don't think, a couple stupid things happen that aren't even worth talking about in my opinion, but since we're talking about celebrities, what'd you think about Kanye West's wife? I don't know why that's always in quotes, his wife's outfit at the Grammys last night.
Well, I was honestly surprised to see a red carpet photo of them, and of course she walks up in this fur coat, takes it off, and she's just wearing a dress that's completely see-through, so you could see all of her breasts and her vagina and everything. So I'm not really surprised that happened. I was more surprised that they were on the carpet, but then later I found out that they just showed up uninvited, and I guess when they got to the door to get into the event, they were like, yeah, no, you're leaving.
No, I don't think that's. I don't know. I heard today that they were invited and he was nominated for something even. So that was just kind of a rumor that was going around. But they did escort them off the property and make them leave afterwards. I guess I mean, really, I don't know if there was a camera or something a live camera. I mean, do they do live from the red carpet still?
Yeah.
Okay, so was that on? I mean, listen, any person that's filming him should know, especially how she's been dressing for the past couple years, should know what to expect. She's wearing a huge fur coat. Like, what did you think was going to happen?
I did not see them on the red carpet I was watching, but also I turned it on a little late, but I think at the time in which they arrived, it would have been on there. I don't think would have shown it because I know their feed is delayed, because oftentimes when I'm watching award shows, I'm looking at Vogue or Vanity Fair and seeing the live uploads of the pictures, and by the time they're on it's like 20 minutes later sometimes. So I don't think it was coming up on, quote, live television, or if they did have footage of it, they chose not to air it because of what it was. But I don't even think, I could be wrong, that posted that look. I think it was more like
I saw a couple magazines were like not, but there's like a kid there.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally inappropriate.
It's just whatever. It's just so ridiculous. It's just it's so corny.
On a petty note, I'm just gonna say the Grammys are consistently the worst dressed award show all the time. I rarely am like, wow, somebody looks really good. Of all the looks, the only one I could remember is Sabrina Carpenter, and because I like her vintage aesthetic. But other than that, it's like, what was Will Smith's son doing with that weird house on his head? I can't get over it. I thought Lady Gaga
and my
was
whole
dressed
night
really
consists
weird.
of me getting screenshots of all of these things.
Yeah, and you don't care either. Like, I'm texting you everything.
I literally don't care. The whole entire thing. I was just hearing something today about how like back in the day, like the Beatles got under 5 Grammys, like the Beatles or Rolling Stones, or just these crazy, just popular music bands, and Beyonce's had like 33 or something. It's just like the whole thing of it just seems like it's not even authentic. Like, this is the best. And this is like, I love Beyonce. I'm not talking shit on her, but this particular album, I think most people would agree, is not her finest work. So it's just like, what's the category for to just pay someone off? Because then the whole thing is just fake.
Well, I want to just say too, is that I think that a lot of people, and this happens with the Oscars too, that they expect the most popular movie to win, but because the Academy members are voting, I think they're voting for the artistic integrity of the works, not necessarily what's the most popular. And if you want to look at Cowboy Carter, I think it's an achievement in itself because she shifted genres, and artistically it was very well done and composed and put together, but I think everybody can agree it was definitely not the most popular one per se. But if the Academy members are voting on it based on the artistic level of it, the production value of it, I can see why that won. But I think a lot of people have a lot of things to say.
I could see why it won, because people get paid off to you buy your spot. Okay, it's just like those signs that say like, this restaurant got best of South Jersey 2021. It's like that. All that shit is just like paid off stuff. You know, it's the same thing.
Mean, I think it's hard to ignore that Jay-Z just complained that she's won the most Grammys ever and never won that particular award. And then this year for an album that wasn't necessarily
and then they had like
work.
Taylor Swift presenting. Like, come on. All right, listen, like, I can't anymore with this bullshit. All right, let's talk about freak accidents.
Okay, last week in Michigan, this 5-year-old boy was receiving treatment in a hyperbaric chamber, and suddenly it exploded, killing him instantly.
So I guess they were normally do you know what that is?
I know we've talked about it before, but can you just refresh my memory? Because I don't really understand 100% what it is.
So sometimes when you have, let's say, for example, because it's commonly used for this, if you have a wound that doesn't heal and you want to make sure that the patient has as much oxygen exposure as possible because that'll help the wound heal. So you put them inside of this chamber and it has compressed, like pressurized air along with a higher percentage of oxygen that's in the environment. And it helps accelerate healing in a wound, for example. And that's the FDA-approved reason to use this, right? This clinic that this little kid was at was using this for other reasons that are not FDA-approved. People use them for everything. ADD, autism, migraines, depression. There's just like all these random things that people use them for off-label. And generally, they're safe because it's oxygen. I mean, just breathing it in is not dangerous, right? So they didn't say why this 5-year-old child was in there, but something happened to cause it to explode. They came in, the fire department came in and said that the kid was dead when they got there, which means, I mean, think about an explosion, how awful that is. And the mother was right next to the kid. She got injured, but I mean, think about what she saw. I just can't even imagine it. And it's just, they didn't say why he was there. I don't know if it was a life-saving thing or I don't know if it was one of these off-label, just like, let's try this because your kid's misbehaving thing. But how freaking terrible.
I think it's really horrible. I think the company's really stressing that this is a really rare event. Obviously, they need to do an investigation and see exactly what sparked it. Like, was this machine defective or was there some weird element in the room that made it combust?
Well, so it's this air that's compressed is just, it's very, very combustible. So I don't know if someone lit a flame. I don't see why someone would light a flame within the building, but there's just other things that could have sparked it. But I don't know, it's just so sad to think
it is
that.
really
And
sad.
I know the company's just, I don't know, just think about from the mom's perspective. You don't want to say like, oh, this has never happened. That just doesn't help, you know?
It certainly doesn't help because it did happen that one time and it was fatal. So I think they're putting that out so people aren't scared to continue getting the treatments, but it doesn't make it better for this particular family.
It's crazy because I've never had it done, so I don't know. Maybe you guys that have had something like this done might be able to speak to it, but do you think that the common person that just goes and does this is aware that that's even a possibility?
No.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Like, do they make you sign a waiver and say like, hey, this might happen? I don't think so.
Well, I guess we'll see if I'm assuming a lawsuit's going to come out of this in some capacity.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm curious because it is being used off-label too at that place, because I think that place does all off-label. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, they're allowed to. It's not that they're doing something they're not allowed to, but
it's just
I'm
not.
curious.
It's just not approved treatment.
But you know, as usual, we don't ever get a follow-up on any case. If we ever do, we always tell you guys, but we never do.
Yeah.
I never hear anything again on certain things.
Or
so.
we get updates that are purely conspiratorial, and you're just like, I can't go on a show and just say this because somebody on Reddit said it. So I don't know. We
oh
try
God, the worst conspiracies we were getting was the girl that died in the oven at Walmart.
Yeah.
Just like the most insane things. And I was like, I'm not even saying that out loud because there's no way that that's true. Just,
yeah.
I can't even believe people would spread the rumor because it just sounds so outrageous.
Until an official news outlet writes it up as fact or there's a lawsuit
and
or something.
And then that's even skeptical.
Yeah, it is skeptical.
But at least it's a little bit more than Reddit, I suppose. Okay.
So
oh God, this next one is.
Well, I'm wondering how you feel because I know you've done this a couple times at my birthday
I have
party.
I have a story about this, actually.
All right. Back in 2022, this woman who is 20 years old threw a party for her child. And at the party, people were, taking sucking helium out of balloons to make their voices really squeaky and high pitched. I'm sure a lot of people do this. I think pretty much everybody in our life has done this at some party at some point in time. But they convinced this mother to do it, and when she did it, somebody turned up the flow on the canister with the helium, and it immediately hit her in the back of the throat, according to her twin sister, and then she collapsed immediately.
So, So this is my story. A couple years ago, I was across the street with the neighbors, with the kids and everything, and there was balloons at the house for whatever reason. And we started doing that to show the kids, like, hey, your voice could sound funny. So then the kids were like, can we do it? And then I thought to myself, you know what? This is probably really bad. Just thinking, I don't really have any experience with a person that died from this, like this particular case, but just from what I know from every carbon monoxide, whatever, let me just look this up, right? And my neighbor's a nurse, and we're just kind of like, whatever. And we both look it up, and we're like, oh my God, we would never let our kids do that. We freaked out. We're like, we're never doing that again. We're so sorry. This is terrible. We didn't think of this and stuff. And yeah, so it's the same as having carbon monoxide exposure or huffing injuries. It just replaces the oxygen on your blood cells and you can die from asphyxia. And that's what happened in this case. So they say about putting warning labels and stuff, but people don't typically have warning labels on the balloons and things like that. Now, we're talking about a totally different situation here, though. You can probably, in theory, die from just breathing it in from a balloon. But this woman went directly up to the tank and sucked it out of the tank.
Okay.
And the air pressure, because if you ever see a container like that, it says that it's under pressure because it could explode, just like the hyperbaric oxygen chamber we just talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's under so much pressure that just that stream of air going into your lungs could cause lung damage, and then the amount of it going in could cause you to die. And that's what happened with her. Like, you should absolutely never, ever, ever put your mouth up to something like that and try to suck it in.
Well, so then they brought the canister to the coroner, who said there was a warning label on it, but that it was in really small print. So I guess now, since it's been a couple years since this happened, the family's saying that she was not aware of the dangers of it, and they're trying to call for really large, obnoxious warning labels to be on these canisters so people are fully aware of what the potential danger is.
This was in another country, right?
This was in New Zealand.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure in America there's pretty big tags, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and I feel like there are pretty big stickers on the tanks themselves. But how many people?
Because it has the MSCS triangle on it that says all the hazards with everything. I feel like it's pretty big.
Well, here, but not there. So
No,
I guess
yeah.
over there they're trying to get it changed.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just such a stupid death. You know what I mean? Like, it's sad. She was a mom. It didn't need to happen, but you could see. I mean, like, listen, like, it just happened with us, with me and my neighbor, and we're both educated in medical stuff, and it's just like you don't really think about it, but then it's like essentially, okay, well, you shouldn't be doing whippets and things like. It's kind of on the same lines of like the huffing, you know.
Well, I just think, unfortunately, things like this need to happen so people are aware of it. You know what I mean? Not that they should happen to make people aware, but people don't realize until something really bad happens, and then they stop doing it. This next case is about this 48-year-old guy. He went to the emergency room with abdominal pain, which he said started about a couple hours after he was mowing his lawn. So at first, he didn't know if he, like, got hit by something or was stung by a bee or something like that. Couldn't really explain what the pain was. So he starts getting tests at the hospital, and what did they end up seeing?
So they did, when he was looking at his abdomen, because he was having this pain in his abdomen, and he was looking and he didn't see anything. So he was just like, I don't know what's happening right now. He goes to the hospital. They do an exam and they don't see anything on his abdomen. But he's kind of freaking out so bad that he's in pain that they say, okay, let's do a CT scan and let's also do an ultrasound. And when they went to do the ultrasound, he was in so much pain, they were having a hard time just pushing the Doppler on his belly because his belly hurt so bad. So they did the CT scan and they saw that he had this 7-centimeter piece of metal that was pierced into his abdomen. And here they think that it flew. It was like, again, a shrapnel injury from the lawnmower that went right through his skin.
Yeah, so it was a rusty nail. Do you think it was just like laying in the grass and then it just shot up?
I have a case in the gross room of one of our members actually sent it to us. Her husband was mowing the grass and ran over one of those little flagpoles, you know, the little the one that has my little Phillies flag on it.
Yeah.
Like something like that small. And when he ran it over, the thing broke, the blade broke the metal off, and it flew into his leg and went into the bone of his leg.
Wow.
Yeah, like, because it's a shrapnel injury, you know what I mean? So when they looked at the guy's abdomen again, they saw that he had this area of a little tiny area of inflammation right corresponding to where that went through that they couldn't even see. They actually put a picture of his abdomen basically saying, do you see anything here? Because if you examine him right now, would you think that he got pierced with something? No, it's because it was so thin and it's hot and it goes through so fast that it just pierced right through like a little dot.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, this week we did an amazing case that is the John O'Keefe murder that, well, we don't know if it was a murder actually, but because the trial isn't complete, but it's a very interesting murder / accidental / what the hell happened to this guy case. But you might have heard of the woman that's on trial for this case. Her name is Karen Reed. Well, she's on a break right now, right? Because there was a hung jury.
Well, there was a mistrial, so she's awaiting another trial.
Yeah, so but we're talking all about the case, and it's super controversial. It's one of these ones that's on the internet that's just making people go completely crazy. So you're either on the team that she did it or on the team that she didn't do it. But regardless, we're going to break down the entire case in the Gross Room. This week, we went through all of the circumstances and everything leading up to it. And next week, we're going to display the autopsy findings, which is going to be super interesting. And I will give my opinion on it because I have a pretty strong opinion on it. And it's something I don't think that they brought up in court.
All right. Well, you guys can head over to thegrossroom.com for more info and to sign up for only $5.99 for the month.
Okay, true crime.
All right. So we've talked about this case on here before and many times in the Gross Room, but we have updates about the Ellen Greenberg case. But as a quick reminder, she was the teacher in Philadelphia. She was 27 years old when she was found stabbed 20 times in her apartment during a snowstorm. Initially, because of the amount of stab wounds, the Philly ME had determined that she died as a homicide. But then after some police pushback, he changed it to a suicide. And her family has been fighting this since 2011. So what is the current update on the situation?
Well, it's a really good update, actually. And it shows that you should really fight for things if you believe them not to be true, because her parents have been fighting all this time, and now they've been saying, can you just change the death certificate to not say suicide and to say, even if for it to say undetermined, because they just didn't believe that her daughter killed herself just with all of the evidence present, and they wouldn't do it. And then finally the medical examiner that did the case said that this is exactly what he said. It is my professional opinion Ellen's manner of death should be designated as something other than suicide. So that only leaves, so there's only 5 manners of death. So it definitely wasn't natural. It definitely wasn't an accident. So all you have left is suicide, homicide, or undetermined. Undetermined would be worst case scenario, because then they're going to say, we don't know if she killed herself, or we don't know if someone killed her. And that would be the worst case scenario and terrible, because if someone killed her, they should be prosecuted for it, you know?
Do you think the timing is suspicious, considering a judge just decided that the ME and the lead detective would have to testify at trial, and now that the city has decided to settle and reopen the investigation?
I just read an article, and I don't know if I'm reading it incorrectly, but it seems like the family sued the city, and then right before this lawsuit went forward, Dr. Osborne, who's the medical examiner that did the autopsy, was like, you know what, I'll change it. And I'm thinking, well, that's weird. Right before you were supposed to get sued, you'll change it. And then
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. I think that's why they decided to do it. But in all honesty, like, he should have changed it years ago. So he's saying now that there's all this new evidence to life, which there's been. I don't 100% agree with it either, though, because he's saying that he initially, especially from the medical examiner's point of view, if he did the autopsy and just looking at the body, not knowing anything, because that's what originally happened, he just was like, someone killed this girl, then that's the end of the story. It doesn't matter if someone didn't break in or whatever. Like, that to me doesn't matter. I know circumstantial evidence matters, but like, for you doing the death certificate, you should think that that's how that person died, then that's how that person died. And then you let someone come in and put some ideas in your head, and then you changed your story to fit that scenario. And it's just two completely different things, you know? So I think this whole case is a giant shit show to begin with. It just has always been a shit show. I'm glad that it's getting re-examined finally. The problem is that her body's gone. They do still have evidence. They have pieces, parts, everything in jars at the medical examiner's office, microscopic slides, reports, photographs that they could look at. But now there's always going to be some kind of a question when there really shouldn't have ever been a question.
Yeah, I just think I'm, putting on my tinfoil hat, because I think if he went on the stand, or maybe the detective did that, maybe the city feared larger issues being exposed at hand. And I think
of course, and they're already under scrutiny anyway because of these issues over there. You know what I mean? So they should pay the family off, but they also should just reopen it. And I mean, there's been proof now that they're saying that she has injuries that occurred when she was either dead or not able to do them because it severed a part of her spinal cord. Like, end of story.
Well, I also think, and I saw a lot of similarities in this when we were covering Karen Reed case yesterday, was they start the investigation thinking it's one way, and then they only look at it that way instead of going into it totally neutral and then figuring out what happened.
Yeah, well, it's preconceived ideas, and then you could make it. It's just, when you do an autopsy, if you're really sticking to the science of it and stuff, you shouldn't be able to take one autopsy and be like, how could I spin this to make it look like a suicide, or how could I spin this to make it look like a homicide? You know, and that's what they kind of tried to do. And the guy, listen, like, if I was this guy and what year was the autopsy?
2011.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't want to even be talking about this anymore. And it probably weighs heavily on him all the time, because you see these parents distraught and like,
how do you even remember something that you worked on when they've worked on hundreds of cases 14 years later?
Oh, he remembers this one.
Well,
I'll tell you that.
He's been getting shit for it.
Yeah, I'll tell you that.
Day.
They don't even want to hear her name over there because it's but they're also like standing to their ground and stuff. And listen, like, I see their perspective of it to a certain extent. She had a history of being on psychological medications, and she was having some depression and anxiety issues and things like that. I get that, but like, the wounds it just was very, very unusual. And another unusual thing is recently I think that's when we talked about her just a few weeks ago, saying that her ex-fiance has come out for the first time since this has happened. He's since remarried and has children. Well, guess what? He's the suspect if they decide to change it to homicide.
Yeah, and he's never been suspected of foul play, which I think is kind of weird. I just think that the way, and listen, this is always a thing. You say, like, you don't know how you're going to react when this situation, we're just talking about it with the plane. What happens if there's a bomb in front of you, whatever. You don't know how you're going to react. But just, if you listen to the 911 call, it just sounds like staged almost. He's like, he didn't see that she had a fucking knife sticking out of her chest. They were like, do CPR on her. Okay, first of all, why wouldn't that even be your first thought? Like, just, you don't know how. I don't really know how to do it. I learned it when I was 19 years old in college. I'm just saying, like, I would try anything to save my loved one that I thought was in distress, no matter what. And the lady's on the phone walking them through it like, it's okay if you touch her. You can touch her. Just do it on her chest. Oh, there's a knife sticking out of her chest. Oh my God, she must have killed herself. Who says that? Well, yeah, it's weird.
Thanks. Like, if you find your loved one dead, with a knife in their chest, why would you ever think that? It's just, and listen, people do kill themselves with a knife. I have cases in the gross room of it, but it's super, super rare, especially in a woman. It's just so, so rare.
I just think, like Karen Reed, when you really get into the details of this case, you could really argue it either way.
Oh yeah,
And
you
because
could.
the police work is sloppy, that's why you can't say definitively what happened.
Exactly. That's the problem, because they treated this as a suicide from the time the police and the medical examiner's office showed up, that they didn't treat it as a crime scene at all. And it's the same with the Karen Reed case. They didn't treat it as a crime scene. And that's when people lose all your trust. They just don't, And then there was that shady shit with his uncle going the next day and taking her computer and stuff because it wasn't labeled a crime scene. So he was allowed back in to get the belongings. And you're just like, why did his uncle take her computers? Why? It's weird to me. I'm sorry. It's just fucking weird. And he was like a lawyer, and they're like,
well,
there's something shady there.
I don't think it's unusual. I was watching this 2020 about Karen Reed last night, and Matt Murphy was actually in it, and he said, because a lot of people were really critical of her for immediately getting a lawyer, but he said in that special that that's pretty common. If you were associated with a death like this, even if you were 100% innocent, you should just get legal counsel because it's smart. But the fact that he got a lawyer and they're like taking the belongings and try to get rid of stuff, that is weird.
Wait, trying to get rid of what stuff?
Or taking the computer. We know she had
for that
suspicious...
case,
for Ellen Greenberg, sorry. So we know she had suspicious searches. We know she was on and off of some psychiatric medications. I don't know if he's going to try to play that as he was trying to protect her because it's something not a lot of people knew, or what the hell was going on. I don't want to say either way what happened because I really don't think you can.
Wasn't there text messages between them that he just seemed very douchey?
Yeah, but that doesn't make somebody a killer.
I understand that, but that might be why she was on anxiety meds. I'm just, you know what I mean?
Also, like, you can't say that either.
I can, because I've been in a relationship with someone that sucked before, and it gave me anxiety, so I could speak from personal experience. Sometimes, like, you could just think about things like that. Like, it's not wrong to just assume that, right? I'm not saying it as fact. I'm just saying, like, hey, I was once not in a great relationship and had anxiety and wanted to be on meds to make it go away. Like,
if he really didn't have anything to do with this, I feel bad because it's been going on for a while. If he did have something to do with it, I guess we're going to see how that plays out because the investigation is
how
really
outrageous
sloppy.
would it be if he had something to do with it and he thought he was like in the clear, and then that's when he decided to get married and have kids and stuff, and now he might be going on trial for that, because who else would go on trial for it?
Well, generally speaking, I just want to say if you have committed a crime, it's really ignorant to think that you're beyond it with technology, DNA, everything like that going on today. I don't think there's ever a point where you should be like, cool, I'm in the clear. Because we see these things come up years later.
It's a tough case right now to... I mean, I feel terrible for the ME's office to have to re-examine this. It's because if whatever they say... If they say, okay, we determine that this is a homicide, then they're going to have to, you then have to find somebody that did it. And it's like, what if they are wrong? You know, that's the thing. And you do, like I said, people do kill themselves with knives sometimes, but the whole thing is the injuries that were made by the knife are what's in question. And when they say that they're looking at these specific injuries and saying, you know, because one doctor said that they looked at it and it did not incapacitate her. But then that particular doctor that looked at it said that she never looked at it. She said she has no receipts of doing a consultation for that case. But I do believe that he possibly brought it over to her to look at and just was like, hey, look at this. You know what I mean? Because we do that all the time in pathology. It's like like off the books, just like, what do you think about this? But like, if that was the determining thing, and Dr. Rourke, who's an excellent, like, world-renowned neuropathologist, said that, it would have been good if that was in writing, you know, to kind of cover all the bases here. And if she determined that, oh, she still could have been moving her arms even if she made this incision, then, like, end the story, right?
Yeah, I'm curious how this is going to play out. I mean, when you were just, like, thinking you're in the clear, I was thinking, you know, they didn't catch Joseph D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer, for 50 years, but they did. his last known committed crime was in the 70s, and they arrested him, I believe, in 2018. So everybody should be on their toes.
I just
if
think
they've done
I
anything
understand
like
that. I just think that right now, if there's no more evidence that could come out, it's just kind of like, obviously you would think it's the boyfriend because he was there and he acted weird and this, and like the whole scene of it was weird and unusual. But at the same time, like, there's not really any evidence besides circumstantial, which is minimal, that would implicate him at this point.
Yeah, that's why I think they're going to have a really difficult time, because it all boils down to the original investigation, which was 14
They're
years
gonna.
ago.
I would say that they'll probably just change it to undetermined.
Yeah, so
That would be safe, unless unless a neuropathologist looks at it with certainty and says no, this, I just think
Yeah.
at this point it's too messy. But I'm happy for her family that they're getting some answers, because if it was handled correctly, like you were saying, if the evidence was handled correctly in the beginning, then maybe they would have been at peace with it, and they've made their life a living fucking hell, actually.
Yeah, I can't even imagine going through something like this, and then you have to fight, a government entity about something like this, and that just makes it all the more difficult. So, at least hopefully this is some steps to getting them some type of closure that they deserve. Okay, back in 2023, this woman thought it was a good idea to use a hairdryer to warm up her infant son, and of course she was high and fell asleep while the hairdryer was still on and ended up burning the child to death.
This lady's 32, has a baby. The kid had such severe burns on its body. I don't even know like what the actual cause of death was. Was a hyperthermia? I'm not sure. They just said that the baby's body was burned. But just from a skin burn in a couple hours, I don't think that would be something that would kill you. There has to be a little bit more to the mechanism that caused the kid to actually die there. But and I don't know if it was a couple hours or how long she went to sleep. But she woke up and he was unresponsive, and she tried to give him CPR and everything, and he ended up dying. And they said that what she was trying to like hide an apparatus to smoke marijuana. See, like they were just saying that she smoked weed. When you say she's high, it's like, well, she wasn't high on like heroin. She was on weed, which is legal, right? Everybody smokes weed now. I smell it all day long outside. It's like a new flower outside.
Parts of this story that I'm really confused about are they're saying she was arrested the following day on one count of cruelty to children in the 2nd degree, but then she was released on bond. If your kid died from something you did, why are you getting released on bond? And then, of course, while she's out on bond, a year later, she gets a DUI.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing, though. She's out on bond because it was negligence, but it was an accident. I don't think that they determined that.
But she was under the influence, so can't you see this the same as like as a DUI? Like you willingly did something while you were under.
Yeah, but if
were
you
intoxicated?
if you get in an accident and kill somebody with a DUI, you don't always go to jail either. It just depends. But I don't know, like if they put things in different categories, because easily, like let's say I mean she had weed, right? But let's say she took Benadryl and fell asleep or something too. Like the whole thing she was doing was just fucking stupid. It's just, I don't even understand. Like, did she not have heat? Why was she whatever? I don't know. But it was just stupid to begin with. But it was just negligence and stupidity. I just don't see that she could be in jail for a long time for that.
Well,
when they determined that she wasn't like trying to hurt the kid, really.
well, now a grand jury's hit her with 2nd-degree murder charge, so somebody thinks it's more serious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the circumstances are behind that, but
well, this next one's really interesting, involving a DUI. So in Sweden, this guy was flying a drone over a temporary no-fly zone that was over a car show. So police tracked a drone back to this guy, and they tested his blood alcohol level, which was 0.069. And really interestingly, in Sweden, their legal limit is 0.02, whereas here it's 0.08. So because he was technically over the Sweden's legal limit, he was charged with a drone DUI.
this is something I never even thought of.
No.
But actually, because he was flying in restricted airspace, and now with all this shit that just happened over the past couple days with the airplanes, you're kind of like, okay, maybe this is just something I never even thought of. You know how we talked about this on this show that New Jersey's having like what I don't know if we still are because I haven't seen it, but we were having this crazy drone problem with these big drones flying over and all this stuff. Some of those drones are freaking big. They're like the size of a car.
I know.
So I don't know if a regular person, like, can I just go buy a drone that's that big if I have enough money to buy it? I don't know. There has to be some kind of regulations or whatever, but like certainly I guess you shouldn't be driving them if you're drunk.
Well,
They're not
you can't.
supposed to go in a certain height and in certain areas.
Well, they're saying it's an aircraft, even though it's flown by itself. It is controlled by someone down on the ground and can fall from a high height and injure somebody, let alone hit a helicopter, an airplane, cause significant damage, or a deadly crash, depending on the size of the drone. So he was charged with DUI and fined $3,000 for it. I'm curious
You
why
won't
they're...
even get fined $3,000 for DUI with a regular car in this country.
No, but I'm fascinated that their legal limit is so low compared to here.
It should be.
Yeah, it should be, but I'm just
Dude,
like,
if
it was mind blowing.
you know what? You know what's like an excellent example? Because I don't drink that much, right? So when I do, if I just were to drink to get my blood to be right at the legal limit, I would be piss ass drunk. I'm telling you, I get drunk so easily off of one drink. I could never drive with one drink, even if it was a glass of wine. I couldn't. So it varies from person to person, especially depending on like how dependent you are on alcohol, your tolerance, but that it's very high limit considering that there's some people that go to the bar one time and like, hey, let me just have the, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I know other people that could have 5 or 6 drinks and be completely fine to drive, but
Well, it varies person to person, and that's why
yeah.
I don't think they base it off of how many drinks you said you had, but what's going on in your body.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because the blood, like what I'm trying to say is the blood work and the blood alcohol level isn't necessarily it's not equivalent to your impairment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying if I have one drink, I feel like I can't drive, but my limit would still be considered legal, even though I personally think my impairment's off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All right, this next one is so completely disturbing. So in Florida, this 63-year-old guy asked his 30-year-old son to help him get back into his email account. I guess he got locked out.
Typical boomer question, by the way.
Typical boomer question. But while the son was trying to get his dad back into the email account, he came across child porn that was stored in the dad's phone and ended up turning him into the police.
I love this story.
It's cool that he did that.
Could you imagine going through your parents' email and finding fucking child porn? Like,
Listen,
what was it, 900 and...
Yeah, we're not talking about one picture. We're talking about 952 files.
And the worst part is so this guy, the son is 30 years old. The dad's 63. He has other children and has grandkids. That would fucking frighten me.
And they said in the pictures the kids were ranging from ages 5 to 8 years old. That is absolutely disgusting.
I feel bad for the son because nobody ever even wants to see those pictures.
No, so it's like now your dad is 100% going to jail for this, which we could talk about him getting let out on bond too. But you have to deal with that. This is now public information. You had to see these pictures against your will when you just thought you were helping an innocent boomer get back into their email. But the dad was released after posting $100,000 bond. I don't understand why bond is even allowed for somebody in this situation. Clearly, he is a harm to children and society if he's saving pictures like this. He admitted he was doing it. It's not like he was even trying to act like his phone got hacked.
It just is so gross. It really is.
It's really, really disgusting.
I can't stand that a guy, I can't stand that people can get this stuff. That's what bothers me the most. It's not like he took them of a child he had access to. Like he was able to get them off the internet somehow. Yeah. And that bothers me. So with the amount of technology that exists, I just don't understand how this is possibly going on that all of these people are trading. We actually had another story we didn't talk about this week that we can mention really quick, that there was this law enforcement husband and wife from New Jersey that was distributing child porn with their own children. Like, and people, they were doing it on some site called Kick, a social media site called Kick. I never even heard of it, but there's all these like new, smaller social media sites that might not have.
Wasn't that the site the
Yes, I
school
thought
shooter was live
Yeah, I
streaming
believe
on?
so. I was like, I felt like I heard this before. But like I'm saying, like they're a smaller company, so they might not have the same amount of technology that like Facebook has or something, you know? And
Well, they need to.
like it's just so freaking disturbing that there's not some technology that could pick up that there's a child. It's just so fucking gross to me. I
So
can't.
he's facing over 20 felony charges, and each of those charges carries a maximum of 15 years. So hopefully this guy just goes to jail for the rest of his life and rots in there because
Do you
it
think
is
that
disgusting.
do you think honestly, like this guy's 30 and he's known his dad his whole life, like do you think that there's other stuff too, and it can't be like a total shocker that this happened?
Well, maybe it's one of the, like, do you ever meet an older guy that's just like a little like pervy or creepy? Like, you can't assume they're doing the absolute worst thing ever like this, but I'm sure there were certain personality traits that were probably like, off-putting, and now they're
Yeah.
gonna piece together. And I wonder if they're going to have to interview the grandchildren and the kids and see if they ever were molested.
Yeah.
Because how could you trust that he wasn't doing that?
I know.
It's really disgusting.
I know, it really is. Okay, medical news.
All right, so the FDA has announced a new non-opioid painkiller called Jurnavix.
Suzetra. That's how it is pronounced, I believe. Suzetrigine. That's the generic form of it. So I guess it's been 25 years since they've made a pain medication, probably because they're scared shitless because of the whole opioid thing. The last one they made was Celebrex, which has got its problems as well. Used for arthritis and things like that. But the most shocking part of this article is that they're saying that the most commonly prescribed drugs in hospitals is for pain management. 80 million prescriptions a year. 80 million. And half of those are for opioids.
And
Like,
just in the United States.
Just in the United States. That is fucking outrageous. It's so bad. They're way overprescribed. But I guess this new drug, the opioids work by changing the way that your brain perceives pain, whereas the new drug is blocking the pathway. So you are experiencing the pain, but your brain doesn't know that it's experiencing it. Now, I think that in theory, on paper, that sounds great, but I just don't trust anything now because you're just like, but what's the but?
Well,
what's the terrible thing that's going to come out of this? Like, what could we predict now that's going to be a problem in 30 years from now?
Let's not forget that Oxycontin was also advertised as a non-addictive pain management, and how'd that turn out, right?
Yeah. And that was like not really too long ago. Like in modern medicine, it's just like they definitely knew it was a problem.
So we, have this giant problem in the world now because of that. I want to have faith in this and think it's this awesome thing. I don't know if I'll fully trust it for a long time because of how Oxycontin went down.
Well, maybe by the time you're a handicapped senior citizen, you start getting really bad pain in your joints. You'll be ready to try it in 30 years or something.
Well, we'll see. I've talked about this many times, how that documentary, The Crime of the Century, on HBO about
ruined your life.
Ruined my life. It really made me question, entities like this and them getting paid off, and that horrible family, the Sacklers, they're still trying to fight to get immunity in court. And I'm happy that the government is like, fuck you, we're not letting you get away with any of this because they don't deserve it. So
I didn't even see it, but like, I don't need to see it. I trust me, I know what's happening behind the scenes with the pharmaceuticals and stuff.
There was one story in there, I literally started crying, which we know is not hard for me to do, but this one person was talking about their significant other and how they got in some type of accident and they were prescribed Oxycontin, and at one point I believe it was a wife that was on the drugs, and the husband went in their living room, and she had been folding laundry when he left the room, and when he came back in the room, she was literally passed out standing up in the hamper. Like, think about how horrible that is, and that's just one example of just like how horrible these drugs are and how they could take these people that are not the traditional, addict
User,
type
exactly.
and turn them into these people, and it's disgusting and really sad. So I'll keep saying this. I want to have faith in this, and hopefully it will change things around, but also it's going to be expensive. They were saying it's going to be around $15 a pill, which is a lot of money, and it's going to take some time for that to go down, and we're going to have to wait for studies over all these years and see the long-term effects of it.
Speaking of this is like maybe a completely different side note, but I saw this Instagram account. It was like there's a couple that document Kensington and Philadelphia. I don't know exactly which particular one this was, but just speaking of the opioid epidemic and everything, if you guys haven't seen videos from Kensington, Philadelphia, it's just shocking that this exists anywhere in the world, that people are living like this. And this one video had this woman who was just high, laying there. She was alive. You could see her moving. She looked dead, though. And she had like 1 million flies on her crotch, right? And then it panned over to a couple next to them, and there was a guy sitting on a chair, and there was a woman that was like straddling him, and they were both completely just high and like awake but not awake, and just on the sidewalk in Kensington. It's just it's just so outrageous. Like a beach chair, drugs all over the ground. It's just so fucking sad, and it all originates from this shit,
I mean, when you drive through that area of the city, it's like Zombieland.
I feel so
unreal.
It's unreal, and I feel so terrible because I'm like, these are people's children, like nobody wants to be there. You're there because of circumstance, but it's just that life is not even a life. It's just so terrible to be trapped in a body like that. It's so terrible.
Yeah. All right, so after Christmas in 2023, this family from Toronto went on what they claimed was their dream vacation in the Dominican Republic, and the first night they were there, they ate at the buffet at the resort. By the following morning, they were all pretty sick. They were begging the hotel for help, and they were just kind of blowing them off, being like, yeah, go to the medical center on site. And I guess at some point, they made it clear that they weren't able to get there on their own. So eventually, they get wheelchaired over to the facility, and the mother and the young son in this case are having difficulty breathing, so they transport them to a local hospital via ambulance, and they ended up dying there shortly after.
Is this like so scary, right?
Yeah.
I guess what happened, it seems, is that so they didn't have symptoms for 9 hours after they ate. And
Which
then
is typical.
It came on violently, and it sounds like they were saying that they couldn't leave the hotel room because they were probably throwing up and shitting so bad that I mean, like, think about this. You're in your hotel room and you got to walk down to the lobby when you're vomiting and stuff like that. Like, it's really hard to think about even doing because, and plus when you're like that, you're very weak and you don't feel well and stuff. But the problem is that if you're losing fluids that fast, you could have a major electrolyte imbalance that it could kill you, really, if you're not getting fluids put into you as fast as you're losing them like that. That's why every time you have diarrhea and stuff, they're like, drink plenty of fluids and stuff. But this is a situation where they needed an IV long before they ended up getting treatment. And I think that, I mean, they didn't really say what caused it, but I think just the way that it sounds, that it was some kind of a bacteria that put off toxins that were just extra virulent and nasty, and that's what happened.
Well, we know it was complications from food poisoning, but not specifically what type of
they didn't
poisoning.
say. I mean, that's what they did, the autopsy. So imagine being on vacation with your family and then all of this going down, your family having to get autopsied in freaking Dominican Republic. Like, the whole thing sounds like such a nightmare.
Well, so the husband and one of the other children survived.
Oh my God.
And now it's like the dad has to tell the other little kid, your mom and your brother are dead. And they're on this vacation.
Like at a Wyndham hotel. It wasn't some shady ass thing. It was like a that's what you know what I mean? Like, I would think that was a more prominent hotel that you could trust. You know what I mean?
Well, you want to think you could trust it, but now they filed a $10 million civil lawsuit claiming the resort lacked proper hygiene and the emergency procedures and did not respond in a timely manner when the family reported the illness. So I'm curious how that's going to work out. I'm curious about the buffet, if they were following protocols, if other people were getting sick too, what food
Someone else
got
had to
them
get sick too. There's no way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially if the mom and the dad and all of the people in the one family were sick, other people got sick as well. But I think that ultimately it just was because they were losing too much fluid.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, so this is crazy. I looked this up, and apparently there's a website called iwaspoisoned.com where
I've heard of this before.
Yeah, where you could anonymously put places that you've traveled. It's actually a good idea. You could, I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt because people are gonna, it's like a review website. But on that website, it says places that people have traveled and where they've gotten sick, and Dominican Republic is a big one. And then in 2023, Forbes magazine in the UK went through all of these travel forums, like millions of them, and they were searching terms like food poisoning, foodborne illness, all this stuff. And they got hit the most hits from the Dominican Republic with over 13,000 posts, people saying that they've gotten sick on vacation there. So apparently their standards are not as good there, because why would more people be getting sick there?
Well, wasn't there that controversy a couple years ago where people were dying in the hotel rooms because they were like putting the bed bug bombs in the room and letting people go in right after?
Yeah. So I don't know. It just was saying that, you know, the Dominican's known for its nightlife and its white sandy beaches and stuff, but they're saying that over 10% of people that have traveled complain of holiday sickness from that particular location. Like it's really.
That's a little too much for me.
It is. That's a high number to think about that. And when especially if you're traveling and you're used to your country and you're used to your healthcare in your country, I don't care if you're coming from America or wherever you're coming from, Canada, UK, whatever, you go there and it's not your country, you know, and you're not going to get the same medical treatment and stuff there as you would here. And it's scary to have an event like that when you're far from home over something that's preventable, you know?
Yeah. All right, we don't really have any other death news today, so we're just going to jump on to questions of the day. Every Friday at the @MotherKnowsDeath Instagram account, we put a story up. You guys can ask whatever questions you want. We got a lot this week that were pretty interesting. So first, when somebody dies with breast implants, are they removed before cremation or burial?
No, I would, if I had breast implant, I have had them a couple times, not myself, on an autopsy. I will usually take them out, because they usually just pop out, honestly, when I take the chest plate off, because I'm cutting through the pectoralis muscle and it usually is just sitting there and it's kind of hanging in there, and I just take it out because it's easier. But no, under normal circumstances, they wouldn't take them out. I don't see why they would. I just do because they're there, but yeah, I don't think so.
2, what were your pregnancy cravings?
I didn't really have any crazy ones. I just ate like a fat pig. I gained so much weight. So much weight. Like 8 pounds with Lillian.
Pierogies with me?
Yeah, I mean, I eat pierogies a lot, but I feel like I'm just like a habitual eater anyway.
You know what you had with Lillian was Big Macs. I've like barely
but I
ever
always
seen
like
you
Big
eat them.
Macs.
No, you were eating them a lot. Like you had one.
I ate
once
everything
in a while.
lot. Like it's really bad. I hate being pregnant, but like I couldn't control my eating at all. It was really bad. Right now, I'm like if you brought me a Big Mac right now, I'd want to eat it. I can't even eat it because it's not even gluten free. But like I'd eat it right now. But like I can control myself and be like, I can't eat a Big Mac every day. No, when I'm pregnant, it's just like I don't give a fuck. I will eat everything under the sun, and I don't care if I consume 8,000 calories a day. Like it just cupcakes, milkshakes, whatever. Like it's just really bad. Like it was like a binge, but not anything specific. I always like crave sweet stuff too, but whatever.
All right, our last question is...
You look at these people that are like, I gained 20 pounds.
You're like, I gained 80 pounds.
Well, towards the end of the pregnancy, they say, we're going to have you meet with a nutritionist because you're gaining too much weight. And I'm like, I eat 5 cupcakes a day. I know why I'm gaining weight. I don't need a nutritionist. Like, they're going to tell me, I know why I'm gaining weight. It's not like I'm ignorant. I just want it. Like, you know what I mean?
All right, our last question is, what do you think so far on the Blake and Justin situation?
Oh, I got thoughts on that.
So we haven't really talked about it because this is not, something necessarily we
You know
would
what?
cover.
We should talk about it though, because it is a crime to falsely accuse someone of sexual assault, and it kind of diminishes people that have really went through sexual assault. It's fucked up, actually. If like, I'm sorry, but we're reading the text messages. Like, I don't care what either side of the story is. We can determine by looking at the text messages what happened, right?
I was talking about this over the weekend because it's like, you don't want to be that person that dismisses how somebody felt, right?
I do.
Well,
fuck her.
For
Like,
me,
she's making shit up, dude.
I don't want to say, normally, I don't want to say somebody didn't go through something like that if that's what they're saying, what their experience was. But it's a little hard to be that way when you're reading, when her lawsuit's saying one thing and then he has everything to prove that incorrect. So I think they're both extremely annoying people.
Yes.
And
that is definitely, that everybody could agree with that.
I understand his need to make this website with all the evidence, but I think it's losery at the same time. But I mean, he's lost everything. He lost his manager, his agent, deals. So in my opinion, he has nothing to lose. So he's trying to clear his name. But with that said, I think he's cringy on his own level. I think her and Ryan Reynolds have been kind of a problem for a while, and people have always thought they were annoying. I think everybody was on her side because of the sexual harassment stuff. But it's really hard when you're, reading all the text messages and you see hers have things redacted, and then she's saying cringy things and like putting Taylor Swift and her husband on him and
Her
all
dragons.
this other stuff. Her dragons.
Oh, who talks like that? She's just so cringy.
I just think they're both incredibly annoying, and this is like spiraling out of control.
I think I have a more succinct thing of what I think. I believe that she was having some kind of a flirtatious / inappropriate relationship with him, whether it be physical or emotional, and her husband found out about it, and she, instead of like getting in trouble with him and her marriage and everything, just pushed it off as like, he was putting me in this position. And I don't think that they ever thought in a million years all this shit would come. They didn't think when they put this story forth that there was going to be a website with their text messages that people would be able to read the other side of the story.
And like clips where she didn't think they were mic'd, but he was mic'd. So her whole account got washed because she's saying, oh, he's nuzzling my neck and saying I smell really good. But then when you see the clip, which is their actual conversation, not her retelling it, you're just like, no, it didn't really go down like that. I think a lot of things to consider too is, it's my opinion that she did not read the book and therefore she did not know how many sex scenes and how sexual the book was. I also think that because
something happened between them. You agree? Did you read the text?
I didn't read them yet.
Because I would never text another guy with this, like, these little hints and these little, like, I get a little saucy. Like, it's like this like.
I think she's crossing a line.
Yes.
I think he was also crossing a line in some capacity as a married man. And talking to a married woman.
But if you read his thing, like, even she was saying all this shit to him, and he was like, yeah, like, my kids just left for a couple days, and my wife just left. Oh, like, I don't know. He was trying to, like, get around it in some of the things. It's just.
So there's also another component of this is there's another book in this series, but it's a prequel that he currently has the rights to. So I don't know if this is her way of trying to obtain the rights to the next movie so she could keep working on it. I actually think it's supposed to be her when she's younger. So I don't even know if she'd be acting in it.
Is it good?
I
Does
don't
anybody even
particularly
care about it?
I don't particularly like this author, but people that really love this book said the movie was very good. So I can't speak on it because I don't particularly like how that author writes. But the people that do really like that book really like the movie, which I will say should be a compliment because big readers that read books of this level are usually extremely critical of the movies that come out
Is
based
he
on the work.
suing her for slander?
He's suing her and the New York Times.
He
for,
should.
I believe, defamation, which we had to talk about this yesterday. Like, you could sue somebody for defamation. Defamation cases are really hard to prove. You have to prove you've had monetary loss or some type of loss. You can't just be like, that person said bad things about me and then you get money. Like, you have to prove your life has been affected by it in a dramatic way. She's trying to
make him go away and cancel him is what's happening.
He has lost deals,
and
agents,
she's
his
more
podcast, I believe.
Yeah, like she's got more, her dragons are more powerful than his. She said that. Like,
yeah, I think they're both kind of losers, and like the texts are cringy. I've heard that her private text messages with Ryan Reynolds are getting subpoenaed, and let me tell you how fast I'd settle a lawsuit because I'm sure anybody that ever talks to their significant other has said, highs and lows of every aspect of their life. So
I would never want that ever.
No.
Well, I mean, just she's really asking for it. They better just. I don't want to. I actually want him to be strong and be like, no, you know what? Release those. Let's I don't need the money. Let's release it and show everyone how you guys really are. Because they had no problem trying to destroy him. Why should he be cordial right now? I mean,
I think it's kind of weird that he's putting all this stuff out and she's not responding to it at all. And I think some of her supporters are like, she's just stronger than him. And I'm like,
she has supporters, really?
No, this is truly a Karen Reed situation. Like, your team Blake or your team Justin, you cannot be in the middle, and fuck you if you're not on my side.
I've never seen a post that has anybody supporting her. I mean,
there's a lot of people supporting her.
I mean, and that could be like an algorithm thing that I get fed everyone that that is the other side. But I actually want to read both sides of every issue, right? Because I want to be able to form my own opinion. But I did just go on that website and read the text messages for myself. And I'm just like, if I was sending text messages like that and Gabe read them, he would not be happy that I was sending those to another man that I was fucking in a movie, by the way. Like, their sex scenes are pretty intense in that movie, I've heard. So yeah, it's, which I always think is awkward anyway as an actor. Like, I know you're acting and stuff, but when you're rubbing up against a hot girl, you're going to get excited. I'm sorry, you're playing it. It's just, you can't turn that off all the time, right? That's why so many people that are in movies and stuff together end up together, because they're making out and stuff or whatever. There's something there that he's jealous, or there's something with the marriage. I'm telling you. Well, I'm going to be a genius when this comes out.
Well, you're not the only person that thinks that. Everybody thinks that. I'm a little, last week I was getting over it. I was like, I don't care anymore. Every podcast I listen to covers it. And now that the website came out, which should just be fuck BlakeLively.com.
What are all the podcasts that you're listening to saying? Because I don't listen to podcasts. I think, I don't really listen to that many podcasts, but I don't think they're covering it much.
Well, at first it seemed like everybody was on her side because of the sexual harassment stuff and him being this cringy male feminist and all this shit. But now I think that he's
a male feminist.
That's what his podcast was about. Being a male feminist.
I don't even really know who these people are, and I don't care.
I literally never heard of him before this happened. So I just want to say that. But
do you think this whole thing is fake just for a publicity stunt for the movie?
No, I really don't, because the movie did really well before any of this came out.
Oh.
So I think everybody was initially on her side because of the sexual harassment claims, and you don't want to be that person that's telling somebody what their experience was like. But now that he has all these receipts of everything and every single claim she's had and having the other side of it, now I think that people are swaying to his side because it's undeniable. You're looking at exact evidence. And if this goes to trial, which it's scheduled for in March of 2026, I think it's going to be just as entertaining.
2026?
That's next year.
Why?
'Cause
I
they
hate
need
this
time
shit.
to
I
gather
hate waiting.
discovery.
Yeah, I know. I just hate
I think this will be on the same level of the Gwyneth Paltrow
Yes,
ski accident one.
Exactly.
And
It's
I hope
gonna
it's
be
on
like
Court
some
TV.
ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
But that's our thoughts. Can't wait to get some nasty grams from people about that. But whatever. If you guys have a story for us, please submit it to stories@motherknowsdeath.com, and we will see you later in the week.
See ya. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.